Welcome to the Genesis Pod, your ultimate destination for real estate brilliance, business empowerment, and community growth. At the Genesis Pod, we're on a mission to turn dreams into reality because everyone deserves a sanctuary they proudly call home. Get ready to dive into a world of expert wisdom where we unveil the secrets of successful real estate investment and entrepreneurial triumphs. Whether you're a seasoned player or a newbie in the game, our seasoned pros are your guides through the intricate business labyrinth. Join us and let's embark on this exciting journey together as we build not just properties, but legacies. Tune in, ignite your aspirations, and become a part of the Genesis Pod family.
Hey everyone, guess who's with me today? So this is the first episode of the new season of Genesis Pod, which is really cool. So I'm here today with someone that I actually really find really cool. His name is Kamara, and he is with Spark 9 out of New Jersey. Hi, Al.
How's everybody going, man? Peace and blessings.
This is awesome because, you know, how we met was technically in a more professional setting. I was helping you with some parts of your business. So let's discuss that. Tell us about Spark 9 a little bit.
Okay, well, Spark 9 is an all-black cannabis company. I started it about a year ago. It was a little bit around the time when I was working with Garden State Dispensary. I had a vision on starting my own dispensary, but I never really knew where to kind of start. So I pretty much, got an LLC. I went on LegalZoom. I came up with the name Spark 9, and then I just kind of put it into my works. Yeah. Can we start again?
No, you're doing great.
I feel like I got a little nervous.
This is a really chill environment. I think you know that by now, so it really doesn't matter. So just go with the flow. You're fine. You're doing great. Now, you said before that you worked for a dispensary. For people who are not familiar with the industry, what is that?
A dispensary?
Yes.
Okay, well, a dispensary is a storefront that, dispenses medical or recreational cannabis where, you can go in and buy your favorite strains that best suit you. They come in varieties in sativas, indicas, and hybrids. And you just pretty much choose what's best in your options of choice.
Okay, so I know there's a process that doesn't automatically end up in a dispensary. So how does one go from raw material to selling in front of a store or a dispensary?
Well, at first, they have a saying called seed to sale. So pretty much what that means is cultivators, they start off by growing the plant in cultivation cycle. And it goes through a 3-month process of, vegetation stage, flowering stage, and harvest stage. After the harvest stage, it gets transported into the packaging stage where they pretty much package the product after it comes out of the dry room. After it goes to the packaging stage, they label it, they heat seal it, and then they put it on the floor. After they put it on the floor, the bud tenders pretty much put it on the market, on the online market, and then it's pretty much in sale.
What inspired you to go into the business of cannabis?
Well, what inspired me was there's a couple things that inspired me. First, my father inspired me. He passed away about 13 years ago. he was also a businessman as well. He never really got to make it to his dreams of being a businessman because he died from cancer. So, I'm pretty much trying to re- relive his legacy by, being a businessman. That's the first one. Um, the second thing is I got arrested for cannabis 5 times in 2017. Um, I was trying to make something out of myself after getting arrested. I wanted to peek into the cannabis industry, but didn't really know how. I was planning on leaving New Jersey and, going to another state where it was a more open market for cannabis, but I kind of, just followed the rules and regulations and the news. And then I kind of saw, cannabis shifting towards New Jersey. So, I just kind of stuck with it. After legalized, I pretty much tried to pursue the journey of being an entrepreneur and opening up my own dispensary.
Well, I'm glad you're honoring your father. I think that's really important, especially when you're talking about legacy, which is important for you when it comes to Spark 9. When we build businesses, some people just say, well, I just want to make that cash. You're really talking about the root of your business, which is really cool. I'm glad you stayed in New Jersey, considering I'm in New York right now. Why the name Spark 9?
Well, it's kind of funny how I came up with the name. It's kind of funny. So I was sitting down one day and, I was kind of thinking of a name for, my business when I was opening up my LLC. And, I was kind of trying to come up with something more unique than, the average, Smoke Up and Bud Brothers, and, just the regular norm names that people kind of see and hear. I just sat down and I was smoking one day, and then I was just like, you know, what do people, tell their friends when, they're trying to smoke? They say, spark up, like light a blunt up, like, spark up. And then I was like, and how do people feel after they smoke? They're always like, I'm high, bro. I'm on cloud nine, So I just kind of took both of those names together and I was just like Spark 9. And then it just kind of had, like it just sounded catchy. And I just kept saying Spark 9, Spark 9. And then, then it just formed into a large, well, a small business for right now, but, you know,
You got plans. Let's be honest. Nothing about Spark 9 is small. So, uh, you mentioned how you got started, that you guys started working in a dispensary, but you've done more than just work at a dispensary. Like, there's other parts to your resume that goes into Spark 9. So why don't we talk about that? Because I feel like for people like myself who's not in the industry or who's never partake, that is really significant on the professional side or the corporate side of the industry. So can you explain or educate us on that?
yeah. So, well, my journey first started after I decided to leave those, well, pretty much, major cannabis companies. And I just decided to kind of, start my own brand and, kind of bring it to life. The first thing I said to myself was, I need to start getting out more. I need to start promoting my business. People need to start knowing who I am. So I dedicated my time and effort to pretty much, follow all these cannabis pages, every dispensary, every, cannabis news sites. And, and I just started following them in their news and their events. And, you know, a lot of important people were going to these events like mayors, councilmen, um, government officials, and I started going to these events and just started telling people about my story about being in the cannabis industry for 4 years, learning the ins and outs of it, in the process, starting my own LLC and, trying to start my own venture. And, it touched a lot of people, like a lot of people, were giving me, props for kind of taking this entrepreneurship journey, because everybody knows how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur. And then, I just kept promoting the brand. I kept, hitting people up, trying to be a speaker, trying to get a table, trying to support other businesses. Things that I did kind of, molded friendships and built bridges with, other business owners and CEOs and other higher up government officials. So, I mean, as far as the journey and how to get there, I could just possibly say it's all about networking. It's all about who you know in this industry, and not really about what you know. What you know gets you, gets doors open, but to actually get through this process, it's all about who you know.
That's a good thing to say. What you know opens doors. That was fire. I like that. That was kind of cool. So you touched on something before about how you almost left New Jersey. And I want to go back to that because I feel like that's significant. When you thought about leaving New Jersey did not legalize cannabis or the sale of marijuana, things like that. What made you say, I have a feeling it's going to come to New Jersey, let me stay?
Well, just like I said before, I was, keeping up with the news. Governor Murphy was running for governor at the time. Christie was actually the governor at the time, and Governor Murphy was trying to be governor at the time. And, I was just following his policies on what he was trying to bring in. He was very big on, bringing the cannabis market to New Jersey. And, that kind of gave me hope, and when I realized how much people in New Jersey was actually for cannabis, it kind of changed my whole ideal of, moving. And then when I saw that it was actually on the voting polls for the 2016 election with Trump and President Clinton, I just, I kind of took my leap of faith, and and then luckily, cannabis got approved and it was decriminalized, and then that's where the work kind of started from there.
That was an interesting thing. Do you see that it's rather odd that it was even illegal considering its history of being part of the US medical and social culture? Because as I'm learning through you and a lot of people in your industry, that it was always here.
Right. It was, well, it started off in California. That's why I'm not really surprised, honestly, because just like any law, it's always going to make its rounds around the country. So if it's legalized one place, everybody's going to want to have their piece of the share. Everybody knows how marketable the cannabis industry is, and everybody wants to get in it. Cannabis was never really a criminalized drug. When I did my research on cannabis, I found out that the reason why cannabis was illegal in the first place was because the liquor industry didn't want cannabis to be a competition, because they saw how profitable cannabis was. Back in like the 1940s, they had cannabis in shelves, like regular store shelves, like you can find cannabis products in like a Walmart, and like a Stop and Shop. They actually had, THC in certain products that we use in everyday life. So, to know, the background history of cannabis and why it affect our people in particularly, um, it kind of changed my whole perspective about, the actual plant, and knowing that it's not really a drug, but it's more of, a therapeutical plant that people actually use to heal themselves.
Oh, that part's really interesting, and I feel like that's something we really should discuss again, like liquor versus cannabis, because I read about that there was a moment where cannabis was like an average Joe thing, like how they had Coca-Cola was cocaine and Coca-Cola, or how sometimes they would incorporate like certain things in makeup. But hearing it from your perspective is really fascinating about how it was largely down to a competing industry trying to protect its own.
Right.
So to follow up on that, there are states that legalize it, but on a federal level, it's still considered a felony. How do you navigate between the two rather distinct worlds of keeping it legal and keeping it legal? You know what I'm saying? Because there's a pocket there. Not every state has legalized marijuana for medical or recreational use. New York is still grappling with that identity for a hot second. So how do you navigate through something like that? Do you try to keep it much in the state as possible, or are you trying to maintain a respectable balance? Like how do you build a business when there's so many roadblocks is really my question.
That's a good question. I just feel like, we just have to keep up the cannabis advocacy. We have to still talk about what we want in the industry, and hopefully they'll follow through. They've granted so many people these conditional licenses, but there's so many roadblocks on actually trying to start this business, and there's so many rules and regulations that kind of stop the black and brown from actually opening up their own dispensaries. On a federal level, it is very dangerous because people that have families, we're putting our lives on the line right now, because even though it's still decriminalized on a state level, we still have to worry about getting our doors kicked down on a federal level. You know what I mean? And that's very scary, for somebody that's trying to make a living for their family. I'm just very big on public speaking. NJCRC holds meetings every month. I am trying to attend those meetings and to speak up more about the demands that we would need in this industry to protect entrepreneurs like myself and others. um, I feel like the rules kind of benefit larger companies and not smaller companies like us. But everything always starts with the voice. It always takes one to you know to build an army of people to kind of understand where this whole industry is kind of going. So I just feel like we just have to speak up more. I feel like that social media chatting and speaking up on social media isn't kind of the real route to go. We have to really physically be in these people's faces and actually tell them you know what's going on isn't right, and we need change. There's a lot of work to be done, especially in New Jersey when it comes to the cannabis industry. um as far as helping black people and making sure that all these dispensaries thrive, it's gonna take a lot. It's definitely gonna take a lot. It's more of a family, and I'm not the only one that feels this way. And one day we're gonna get there, but as of right now, we're still fighting for equality, change in the federal system, uh, changing cannabis from a class A drug to maybe like a class 5 or class 6, maybe even off of the classes, because from my knowledge and a lot of people that actually consume, we haven't really seen anybody pass away from overdosing from cannabis. So we have to put that into perspective too. A lot of these drugs that are in these classes, are man-made drugs that actually kill people. And something that was actually grown from the earth, Asia in particularly, where the motherland of herbs, that's where cannabis was first founded, was in Asia. I don't see where the contradiction is of cannabis being this awful drug that fries your brain and has no therapeutic benefits, compared to crack cocaine or methamphetamine or heroin, where they made those kind of drugs to kill. So that's kind of where I stand when it comes to the federal and state level.
So here's the thing. Now, I do have a question. Every industry, every business, every corporation, they have bad actors, right? And one of the things that is being discussed also, and you mentioned man-made, at least in not everywhere, not everyone, but we're having a huge debate in this country about fentanyl. And there are some people, not saying everyone, once again, I'd like to reiterate that are using the cannabis industry to lace a lot of their products with fentanyl or with some form of ecstasy and things like that. How are you within, because you talked about importance of everything starting with a voice, how are you within the industry, not you specifically, but your cohort, your team, your crew, addressing when it comes to the bad actors? Because I feel like that's really important when it comes to getting the word out, that how are you holding your people accountable when they get crazy?
Right. Well, everything that we're selling is organically grown. So as far as making sure that everything is fully grown and fully healthy, we make sure that you know everything is always looked at, and I want to say FDA approved.
But
we have people that actually look at our plants to make sure that there's no mold in them, there's no chemicals or anything that can actually harm the human body.
okay.
As far as the fentanyl world, that's kind of why I'm a little big on home grow, and I don't really buy cannabis as much, is because of the opioid and fentanyl crisis right now.
Yeah.
For me to
I
be
just feel like it's such an important question to ask, because you're seeing the conversation about opioid use along the same conversation of marijuana and cannabis,
right,
and I people think those are two separate questions. I mean, two separate situations, but they're really not,
right,
because one impacts the other. And how, if we're going to talk about the expansion to other states and changing the federal laws and doing all these things, how are you guys protecting that the marijuana cannabis use from the bad actors, which is fentanyl? Over, sometimes you read stories about, and I know they're largely anecdotal, but people smoking something that's laced with something. Like, how are you regulating that? And that's really why that conversation needs to be had for the other part to happen. Like, what's the regulation? Like, what are you guys doing to make sure that when it hits our mouths, our hair, or whatever, what goes into that? Like, what's the
okay. Well, our cultivation team, we always make sure that everybody uses gloves, hair nets, and wear scrubs before they even touch the plants they're going. do anything with the plants. We're very big on health and you know that with the health policy, and we do understand that there is a crisis right now with fentanyl uh, and I'm sorry, and opioids. So we are doing the best that we can to make sure that all the plants are tested to make sure that there's no mold in it. Like I said, we make sure that all the buds are looked at before they're packaged with our packaging team, and then we have a second look by our bud tenders to also make sure that there's nothing in the jars after it's packaged. So I mean, I hope that kind of answers your question.
It does, because it tells us you focused on quality, because that's a real, like, very real fear for a lot of people. Like, when you're starting for the first time, or there's a curiosity there, you want to make sure that there's people working behind the scenes, not just like packaging things up randomly. Like, you guys are looking for identifiable markers, and that's significant.
Right.
With that being said, there is a thing going on all over social media about the packaging and how sometimes the products are being packaged to look like something else. So if I like cheese puffs, which I do, it's an uncomfortable addiction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you have something else that's not cheese puffs, but it has the cheese puff package.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Because that's, people are getting concerned about how close they look. Like, one looks like Cheetos and the other one looks like Cheetos, but it's not Cheetos.
Well, the NJCRC did have a meeting about packaging. Anything that I would say an attraction to little kids or attracts the youth, I would say, is not prohibited. So packaging that you'd see, cartoon characters, you know, characters off of a cereal box, anything that kind of attracts the youth is not prohibited. So we cannot have those type of packagings in our lineup of work. Um, for me, honestly, I kind of agree with that, you know, because I have, a son, and I don't want him to be, attracted to, you know, packagings that look like, things that he sees on TV. So I'm kind of for, the packaging system on, you know, the right way, the right ways on, having the right packagings in your business.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's something you learn every day. I have a random question. Can you explain the difference between strands? Like, what's a strand? There's so many questions I have. Like, I have no clue what I'm looking at the time. So, what's a strand?
A strand is a different, well, it's a type of cannabis plant. So a strand is to pretty much, you know, divide the type of um bud that best suits you. So there's a sativa strand, which means, a daytime strand, a therapeutic strand that you could kind of use to like go and move around, I guess, be active during the day. There's an indica strand, which means, a more mellow nighttime strand that you can use. A hybrid strand is pretty much a mixture of both. So pretty much the definition of a strand is the bud structure, I would say.
Okay. Which one's more popular?
Now personally, I would say indica. It's kind of hard to say which one's more popular, only because everybody has their own type of preference when it comes to strains, but I would say indica for the most part.
Okay. Now, there. This is just curiosity. Why do people say cannabis versus marijuana?
Because cannabis it sounds more scientific. uh, it's more of the professional way of saying marijuana. It doesn't really have any real difference in like you wouldn't hear somebody say, "Oh, I want cannabis than marijuana." It's not. It's the same thing. They just say cannabis because it sounds more professional in the professional world. But they also use marijuana as well. But marijuana is actually a term that came from Mexico.
Really?
Right, yes, because when marijuana first came into the US, it was it was smuggled, quote unquote, from Mexico. When they brought it from Mexico, the natives that lived there called it marijuana with an H instead of a J. And then
Oh.
after some time, just with American English and American slang, it ended up changing to marijuana. That's why when you say it, it sounds like marijuana, and the J is silent. But that's history.
I did not. I'm totally stumped. I did not know that.
Yeah,
Seriously?
right. It's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, man. Marijuana.
That is like really cool to know. I did not know that at all. I honestly thought that was like the like I said, this is the real cool thing about this is that I know absolutely nothing. So
Yeah, it makes sense,
it
because
does. It's
you
like
know
when you have tequila, like from Tequila, Mexico.
right. So you know how the J is silent in the Latin language, like Jose, but it's spelled with a J. So it's kind of the same thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is wild. So, okay. I have so many questions. This is so cool. It's like talking to a professor. Okay. um the so you so we discussed how like cannabis, marijuana, that now I know the term came from Mexico and the strands and stuff. How does it go from bush or leaf to oil, edibles, all of that? Because it's not just smoking it, you can also eat it,
Hmm.
you put it in your hair, drink it, eat it if you're like want to mix it in your food. Because I know on your page you have like a lot of the like recipes and stuff like that, and you follow some cannabis food-based businesses. So how does how do you explain the versatility behind cannabis?
Well, Rita, just like I told you, cannabis used to be, on our everyday shelves, just like beauty supply stores, just like, you know, your local grocery store. So, once you really start getting the aspect of how cannabis works, then, you can kind of apply it to your everyday life. So for instance, on my Instagram page, African underscore Scooby, on my stories, I have a list of you know cannabis projects that I've did with butter, oil, tinctures, and a lot of these can be made from scratch. Just water, some oil, and just cannabis. You just start off by decarbing your cannabis, which you do by breaking it down to, in a tin pan, and just put it in the oven and just have it heat up. When the cannabis heats up in the oven, it turns into THC. So pretty much THC isn't really formed until heat touches it. So before so the actual crystals that you see on your buds, they're called THCA. So when you decarb it and it turns to THC, now you kind of activate the particles in the buds. So once you decarb your cannabis, you put it into your boiling water with your oil or your butter, then now you have to start stirring it until all the THC mixes with, the oil or the butter that you have in the pot. This method I'm showing you is from scratch. A lot of people now they have machines, but if you kind of want, that real potency, I would, suggest you doing it from scratch. It may take more than a couple hours, maybe the whole day, but the quality in it is something different. Yeah, so after you make your butter or oil,
Mm-hmm.
just you kind of look into some YouTube videos on some ingredients on how to make certain things like cocoa butter, shea butter, um coconut oil for the skin, and then you just apply the can of butter, the can of oil into the ingredients that that you pretty much found off of YouTube, and then you just follow the instructions, and then boom, literally.
Okay, random question. Where does hemp come from?
Hemp comes from Asia. That,
Thank
that,
you.
that's the motherland. Cannabis is hemp. You can't have cannabis without hemp.
Okay.
That's like the father of cannabis.
I like that.
Hemp, no, seriously, hemp is considered a male plant. So that's why they call it the father of cannabis. So marijuana, which is cannabis in terms, they're female plants. So hemp can't grow cannabis plants, but it's kind of hard to like explain. So hemp is CBD. So CBD doesn't have THC in it, but cannabis is marijuana, so it actually has all like the THCs, the the uh the lithanols, the pretty much all the ingredients that you need to actually have a successful plant.
This is cool. This is like talking to like the cannabis version of Bill Nye the Science Guy. Okay. So you mentioned THC, that's why it made me think of hemp. How does one get an education in something like this?
I would say just first of all, you gotta want to learn it. That's number one. Because the one thing about the cannabis industry is that it changes every day. So it's kind of like every day is always a learning curve. Like I'm always learning something every day. The biggest thing would be to also ask questions. you know Everybody doesn't always have the answer to everything, but they always have a little bit of something that can help you to find the answer to what you need. Also just get involved, go to events, try to get in the cannabis industry, try to work in the cannabis industry, try to talk to entrepreneurs, try to talk to anybody that has any affiliations in this market or industry that has any type of knowledge. That's That's what I would say.
Okay. You know what? I want to bring it back to Spark 9 really quick because I feel like all of this kind of ties into that company. When we first spoke and you and I first met, the one thing you were talking about was the importance of community and inclusivity. Do you think that Spark 9 and the industry is reflects that goal?
So you said that the Spark 9 reflect the goal of
Accessibility and inclusivity.
accessibility and facility.
Inclusivity, yes.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that Spark 9 brings uh, a different type of culture to the community. It would definitely bring a lot of people in the community together. Um, it can definitely bring jobs. It can bring wealth. It can bring unity. Um, it can also bring liability. So yes.
Okay. So something about Spark 9 that I really think we should discuss is the importance of incorporating the culture into Spark 9 because you've touched on it a few times throughout this conversation.
Mhm.
One of the things that I like about Spark 9 is the fact that it also includes a lot of like not just the culture forms of Black, but also music culture. Minus our little debate about Ella Fitzgerald.
She's cool.
That's my dude. I'm sorry. I gotta protect my favorite. I gotta protect my favorite like woman. But how you're also incorporating, rap culture, hip hop, everything from like. So, what made you go down that route when it comes to Spark 9? Like, why was that important to you that Spark 9 had that included? That why? That's really the big question. Because you could have kept it really basic. You could have done so many things. So you just explained how your own personal journey had a lot of legal concerns. So you could have played it really safe.
Mhm.
Why and the why keeping it Black?
Well, I was trying to pretty much have like a little bit of mixture of, the taste of, the new culture and what the generation kind of listens to now. So I tried to, incorporate different types of music. It's updated every week. One week, there'll be hip hop. Another week there'll be, Latin music. Next week, jazz. The next week, Afro beats. I try to switch it up a little bit to kind of give the listeners, something to look forward to and not just the same type of music all the time.
Okay. Because like I said, you're very big on you when we like I said when we first met Spark 9, you wanted to make sure that the culture was incorporated in every facet of the brand.
Right.
So that was I just wanted to know like why you could have after everything you've been through, you could have played it safe by incorporating our culture into it. You're taking it to another level. So I was always just curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as the hip hop culture and playing it safe, I mean, a lot of this music, kind of describes the journey that I've been through. Um, you know, they've, helped me to kind of, mold Spark 9 into what it is today. So a lot of those music tastes kind of come from just the grind. you know I just every time I listen to certain musics, whether it's like house music or, hip hop or, R&B or just anything that's pretty much on Spark 9 radio or on the channel, it's kind of relatable. It kind of brings me back to, the grind in the cultivation department, me packaging cannabis in the packaging department, talking to customers when, they had a catchy jazz song playing and down in the storefront. So, I kind of just want people to, kind of have a different taste, a different outlook on, certain genres that they probably never listened to before.
Okay. So what's the future for Spark 9?
The future of Spark 9, the future of Spark 9, I want Spark 9 to be a part of everything. Like I don't want it to just be a dispensary. Like this is a brand. I want Spark 9 to expand. I wanna be a part of, you know, like filming industries. I want to be a part of music industries. I want to be a part of, community based things. I wanted to have more than just the outlook of just cannabis, but I feel like this is the door opening to kind of, a bigger journey and a bigger legacy to leave for Spark 9.
Okay. See, you're doing really good. You feel better?
I'm easing in. I want Spark 9 to be, have its own podcast. I want it to, be a part of, music videos. I want it to be a part of, like promotions. I want the brand to just expand more than it is today. Like I want to look back and say, all right, like this is a worldwide brand.
Well, the great thing is you're big on speaking out and you're big on advocacy, which really does help Spark 9 continue. And let's debunk something really quick about Spark 9 and about the industry at the same time. Do you
Sure.
actually have to be part? Do you actually have to use the products to be part of the industry?
Like consume cannabis to be a part of the industry?
Yes.
No, you don't. You'll meet a lot of people that don't consume, but just are really interested in the industry because of the history of it. Um, so I mean, you don't have to, like smoking or eating edibles to be in the cannabis industry, but it'll favor you because a lot of people that you encounter, probably do smoke or consume in some different type of way, but you don't have to consume anything to be a part of this industry. It's a very friendly industry. Everybody is is open arms, and you'd be surprised that the nicest people that you probably meet are in the cannabis industry. I can definitely say that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I think I've mentioned it like 15 million times in this entire conversation. The fact that I don't. So, it's one thing for me to say it, that you don't have to, smoke or anything to be part of it. It's another thing hearing it from those who do, because there's so many assumptions about this industry, and there's so many assumptions about building a business within the industry. You have everything from, it's a front, it's this. You have a bunch of people sitting on a sofa smoking weed at 5 a.m. Like it's a little bit more. And then when you learn about it, as I have, it's a little more corporate than people think it is. I mean, like there's a retail side, obviously, but the behind the scenes is a little more corporate and a little bit more professional and formal than people assume. How come people don't see that side of it enough? Why do they normally see the retail side?
That's a good question. I would say the reason why people don't see it that much is because a lot of people kind of don't come out to these events. A lot of this information that you need to be successful and to be a successful entrepreneur in this industry. It all kind of piggies back to like who so it's like you're not going to get the information on how to build a business if you're sitting home. So it's like a lot of this information that people you know are seeking are at these events that that you don't see on social media. Yeah, you're going to see the glam life of people smoking and throwing events and cannabis all over the place, but that's literally just the cherry on the top. Like when you trickle down to the whipped cream and then the ice cream and then to the cones, it's kind of like it gets very, very intense when you start talking about the business side of things, and that's something that everybody just has to kind of seek for themselves. One thing that I've learned about this journey is that everybody has a different journey. Coming into this cannabis industry, everybody's journey isn't going to be the same. And I thought, if I knew this guy because he knew that guy, and if I knew her because he knew her, it would be just as easy because it was easy for him. Now, is everybody has their own journey. Everybody's situations are different, and that's kind of like the bittersweet of it. It's kind of like knowing that you've overcome all the walls and all the BS that everybody kind of threw at you, and you kind of blossom into this rose from concrete. That's kind of like the beauty of it.
Well, that's a real thing to say, actually. The interesting thing enough is the fact that you're seeing more universities and colleges get into the education of the industry and the science of the industry.
Hmm.
Do you see that becoming part of the norm when it comes to people deciding their careers or building of a career? That now
I
might be an option for them,
I
like
would say
cannabis management.
it's probably one of the more ideal things that people are doing now. I can personally say I took that route myself. I attended Oxford University, which was located in Oakland, California. A lot of, my knowledge and a lot of things that, I told you in this interview that made me sound super, nerdy or professorish, I would say, kind of came from, my knowledge from attending Oxford University. They taught me so much on how to grow, how to start a business, the science of business, the methods, how to talk to people, how to influence people, literally. So I would definitely recommend anybody that is trying to get into the industry but doesn't really know how. Definitely look into Oxford University, because that's kind of how I took this step forward on entrepreneurship. Was you know working my way into working into a dispensary, and then the what now is like, what should I do now? attend schools, like learn the knowledge and, the histories of cannabis. All of that helps you to move forward. And it'll definitely help you to be more knowledgeable when you're talking to people in this industry about cannabis.
We covered so much in this conversation interview, and we covered everything from education to advocacy to Spark9's branding and plans, who you are. But the one thing I feel like we have not touched on, and I think it's really important that we should, investment. Once again, we live in a country where there's states that have it, but it's not federally regulated. So taking out like a business loan for something like this is not in your wheelhouse. So how does investment work when it comes to building a business or, opening a dispensary or, anything like that, or a cultivation center?
Well, investment is a real touchy subject right now, Rita. That's kind of the walls that most entrepreneurs are hitting right now. They're not really making it easy for us, and that's why a lot of people are speaking up about it, because pretty much what's happening right now is the state is pretty much approving all these cannabis applications, and they're granting people these conditional licenses. But after trying to go to the next stage, which is converting to your annual, people are starting to hit roadblocks, which means access to property, access to funds, and it's tough. It definitely is, because it kind of puts you in a rock and a hard place. And it's kind of like, if you don't have the money, now you have to look for an investor. And now I don't want to say it's like you're begging, but it's kind of like now you're on their time. And it's very tough, because a regular citizen that pays his bills doesn't have 500K to like $1 million in the bank to start a business. And the fundings that these small fundings that they're trying to give us, which is like 100 to 200K. I like it, but it's kind of like it doesn't favor most social equity applicants, because they're pretty much telling you that you have to be approved on all classes of the social equity. So which means that you have to be in a disadvantaged area, arrested for cannabis, and some people don't have both of those criteria, and they just have one. So the grant doesn't really favor minorities that much, only because you still have to have credentials to actually get this loan from the state. So it's like it kind of puts certain entrepreneurs in a roadblock on trying to open up their stores, or even try to look for property, because they lack funds.
So how does one, is it more like grassroots investment when it comes to building something or opening a dispensary? So how do you guys build capital now? I know you said it's a touchy subject, but it's a subject that needs to be touched.
No, definitely. We do fundraisers. We hold Spark9 events. We give back to the community. We help nonprofit organizations, to find fundings at these events. So there's different type of routes that we kind of take to get funding. We also we do personal fundings as well. Like you know, we talk to family and friends to help out, and we also apply for loans as well from certain small uh, business loan companies, and yeah, that's pretty much how we're coming up with the money.
Do you think by changing the federal legalities that would change the conversation on investment opportunities?
Absolutely, because if they change, the federal laws on cannabis, it would actually, open up leadways for us to actually get into these major banks like Bank of America, TD, Wells Fargo. Now they can actually, have a helping hand on, helping small businesses to thrive. But because, cannabis is still federally illegal, and these are federal banks we're talking about, they literally don't even want to hear the word cannabis. As soon as you say, "Hi, I'm here to open up a bank for a cannabis business," nope, sorry, denied. So it's like it's definitely a challenge, but just like they say, bosses they figure out problems.
How how can if you wanted people to know one thing about Spark 9, what would you want them to know?
I want them to know that Spark Nine is here to stay. Spark Nine is going to shock the cannabis industry. This is a dynasty that we're building here. This is a brand. This is something that's going to expand. This is something that you're going to see in, your music apps. You're going to see on social media. You're going to see on billboards. You're going to see in certain other dispensary stores. This is going to be something way bigger than just cannabis. There's going to be podcasts, it's going to be music videos, it's going to be documentaries, it's going to be so much things to look forward to when it comes to Spark 9 that I just feel like it's going to blow up. And to kind of uh, go back to your first question when you said, what is Spark 9? Spark 9 is a brand, that I built from the ground up. This is it's the grind, man. It's to literally represent all the people that wanted to be entrepreneurs and start a business, but felt like they couldn't. I'm trying to be the voice for those type of people. To let them know that it's possible. To go to jail 5 times. To be arrested. To get kicked out of your house. To start from -$5 in your account. Like this is me, giving back to them to, show them that it's possible. Because what we really need right now is a lot more black entrepreneurs. We built this country, you know. So it's like it's time to take it back, That's what Spark Nine is for, man. It's for all the minorities that feel like they can't do it, to show them that they can do it.
Okay. What's the one thing you want people to know about the industry?
One thing that I want people to know about the industry, and I want to stress on this very, very, like, very largely, is that and it's an everyday life tip too. Is you know, everybody is not your friend. And that's kind of what I had to kind of figure out the hard way is that everybody's not your friend. Everybody comes up to you with a big smile on their face, and they act like they wanna help, but they just really want to be a part of the movement. And it's to just realize the real from the fake. Is that it's a lot of work, and you know it's a lot of things that aren't said. Like they just tell you, like, you gotta submit your application, and you have your conditionals, and after you get your conditionals, it's your annuals, and after your annuals, then you open. Like it sounds so easy when you just put it like that,
Mm-hmm.
but the work to get your conditionals and then the work to put in to get your annuals, that's and a lot of us got thrown into this industry like a deer in headlights, like there were so many things unexpected that come your way that you just have to be prepared for. And you would think that you're gonna think that you're prepared, but there's always gonna be something that's standing in your way. But just like I said, bosses always figure out the problem. So no matter what's in your way, you're always gonna figure out a solution to that problem.
There you go. So, Al, where can we find you and Spark 9?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram on African. It's spelled just like, the continent African _ Scooby. You can also follow Spark9 at Spark9 LLC. I don't really run the Spark9 page as well. I don't really run the Spark9 page, but if you do, send an email, I do look at the email, so I can definitely get back to you. My personal Instagram probably have a ton of DMs, but if you just send me,
To be fair, your Spark 9 one has a ton of DMs too.
yeah, I would say just definitely DM me. I try. I definitely do respond. I definitely do respond. In like less than 24 hours. So, you can definitely hit me up on, my Instagram. You can send me a message on Spark9. You can definitely email me at spark9inc@gmail.com too. I'm always on my email, so that would probably be the fastest way to get me, is to just email Spark9. Yeah, and yeah.
To be fair to Spark 9, we do look at the messages. We will get back to you.
Yeah, we do. Definitely.
We definitely do. So either email him, DM him on his personal or Spark 9. We do look at them. We do respond. So keep sending in those questions and have those conversations with Spark 9. That sounds weird. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. I will see everyone later. Thanks a lot, Al. You're awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure, and I can't wait for us to, have more episodes to come.
Yes, because we're not even done. This is just one.
Definitely.
So let's be honest here. There might be moments where you and I might be doing this with like another person, and we may have like a whole like The View type of thing.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. I'll talk to everyone later. Bye.
Bye.